GLP-1s, they're everywhere. But what are the three biggest concerns I see as a registered dietitian for my patients who are using a GLP-1? Welcome, I'm glad you're here. My name is Kate Richardson. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist in Orlando, Florida, who specializes in women's health, weight management, body image, and fueling for better living, confidence, and energy. I do contract work with a physician here in the area who prescribes GLP-1s, and I see a lot of patients at our private practice, Nutrition Awareness, both via telehealth and in person, who are taking GLP-1s like Ozempic, Mounjaro, Zepbound, and Wegovy. And there are some people who are really utilizing these medications as tools, the healthy, right way to do it. And there have been some red flags that absolutely make me panic. And I wanted to share that here because a lot of people are talking about the results you can get from GLP-1s. And, I'm no rookie to weight loss. I know that people want to lose weight quickly and they want to get results. Like, a lot of people are taking these medications to lose weight, whether they have a pre-existing condition or not, like diabetes. However, urgency to lose weight, I feel like, is just the kiss of death when it comes to sustainable weight loss. And we're seeing some costs happening for people who are just in a big hurry to lose a lot of weight quickly. I want to share the three nutrition concerns that I have, that I'm seeing. There's been a couple that have made my jaw drop, but there are also people who I can see this is really working for. And so just to start off as a disclaimer, I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. I am not a medical doctor. I am not a therapist. My lane is nutrition. So this video is for educational purposes only and to help you bring things to your dietitian and your physician to talk about, think about, and consider. Another thing that I want to let you know is I'm not anti-GLP-1s. I am anti people getting GLP-1s from non-physicians. So there are compounded sources of these medications. I believe I just read about how Novo Nordisk is actually not partnering with him and hers anymore because they have had some sketchy marketing and distribution of a popular weight loss drug, Wegovy, and they found that some of the medications were compounded. So I would really recommend that you go see your physician, ideally a physician who specializes in obesity medicine. If you are in the Orlando area, Dr. Shaw at Weight Sense is who I always recommend. I do not believe people should just get these medications from sketchy sources because they're desperate to lose weight. I feel like that's irresponsible for both providers and for consumers. There is going to be a cost to taking an incorrect dose or doing this the incorrect way, and I will die on that hill. Okay, without further ado, let me tell you the three nutrition and health concerns that I see with my patients who are taking GLP-1s. Number one's the biggest one, perhaps the most consequential one, which is rapid muscle loss. Let's talk about why this is important, because I'm going to put myself in the position that I was in when I was overweight, when I was really struggling with body image. I would do anything to lose weight, and I didn't care about body composition. I didn't care about muscle tissue because I wanted to see a number on the scale, I wanted to fit into old clothes, and I wanted to do that by any means necessary. And so I can empathize with people who feel that way. But what we can see from studies is that in just over a year's time, the average person lost over 15 pounds of muscle tissue while taking Ozempic. That's a lot of muscle tissue. Let me put this in perspective. Once you hit the age of 30, hello, I'm 31, you start losing muscle tissue at a it increases. So the older you get, the more muscle tissue you lose. Unless you are trying to preserve or build muscle tissue through strength training and eating adequate diet, okay? But once you hit 30, you're out of that range of being able to maximize your muscle tissue growth, right? The best time to build a lot of muscle tissue is when you're young, because you just have that. When you're in your teens and your 20s, like, you can build a lot of muscle tissue and then it's just from there. Why does this matter? Who cares if you're trying to be thin, right? Well, I want you to think about muscle tissue as being precious real estate that once you lose is really hard to build back. It is hard. It takes effort, time, patience, intentionality, unless you're genetically blessed and just put on a lot of muscle tissue. Why? Because when you are building a new tissue, that takes resources. And when you're taking a GLP-1, you're eating less total food. I mean, usually. And so you're taking in less resources to build and preserve muscle tissue. So you are at risk for losing this precious real estate, okay? Why do you care about having muscle tissue anyway? Well, I've heard it called the muscle of longevity, because who cares if you live to be 90 years old if you have no muscle to support activities of daily living? In the medical world, we call these ADLs, and that means cooking or cleaning or even just being able to get up off the floor. If you're young and you can do that, you have no idea how much that would suck if you couldn't do it. But can you imagine a life where you're still maybe cognitively and physically with it, but when it comes to being able to take care of yourself independently, if you don't have muscle tissue, you can't do that. You're just at the mercy of someone else. So why even want to live to be old if you have no muscle tissue? And you may be thinking, well, I don't want to live to be 90. I'll be happy if I make it to 70. This can happen to you in your 50s and your 60s. You don't have to wait until the very end to start losing muscle tissue. If you are losing a lot of muscle tissue in your 30s, 40s, and 50s because you're on a GLP-1 and not using it responsibly, that's almost worse, right? Like, who wants to be this like bent over, weak 40-year-old? And not me. Plus, purely aesthetic, muscle looks nice. It helps the fat that you do have lay nicer. And so if functionality just doesn't matter to you, I would still tell you that muscle looks pretty good. It's a very visually appealing signal of health. And this doesn't mean bulk, it just means you have muscle tissue. So with GLP-1s, what happens is when people go up in dose, all of a sudden they're not hungry anymore. And I hear this all the time. They're not interested in food. They are not getting the signal to eat all day long. Their brain isn't thinking about food. And so they are not eating enough protein because they're not eating, period. Okay? So I get it. If you're not hungry, eating protein may not sound appealing, but you have to treat protein as important as your medication. I tell people to dose your protein 3 times a day, just like you would take your Prozac if you're taking Prozac, or just like you would take your injection once a week. You need to eat your protein 3 times a day, because what protein does is it stimulates muscle tissue. And if you're in a caloric deficit, you need to make sure that the priority in your diet is protein, or you will lose muscle tissue. And that sucks, okay? So if you don't feel like eating a lot of protein, you need to drink your protein. Let me show you something. Oh, it's right here. This is for people, this is not an advertisement, by the way, but I'll link it below. This is Isopure Infusions. It mixes like a sport drink. So if you don't have a big appetite, like to drink like something vanilla or chocolatey, this you can sip on. It's 20 grams of protein. That is the bare minimum I'd recommend most people have in one dose. 20 to 40 would be ideal, even more if you are really doing a lot of strength training exercise. But we'll get to that in a second. So eating protein 3 times a day, 20 grams of protein. If you are not tracking your food and you have no idea what 20 grams of protein looks like, now's the time to track your food just to understand what 20 grams of protein looks like. A serving of chicken would be like this big, about 4 ounces, is going to get you between 21 and 28 grams of protein. Okay, so it's not hard. You just have to do it. So skipping meals and skipping your protein is going to put you at risk of being those people that lose so much muscle that is hard to build back. Okay, so important. Going along with the muscle loss, eating protein is the way to preserve muscle tissue. If you're looking for the recommended dose per your body, if 20 to 40 grams of protein just isn't like specific enough for you, take your weight in kilograms, take your weight in kilograms, multiply it by 1.2, then multiply it again by 1.6. So those are 2 separate equations. Your weight in kilograms times 1.2, your weight in kilograms times 1.6. That's going to be your range for maintaining or building muscle tissue. You don't have to eat more. You probably don't want to eat a lot less. So that's the sweet spot for how much protein you should be eating a day. And you'll see that if you skip a meal, it's going to be really, really hard for you to eat that much protein. The other thing that helps with muscle tissue is strength training. So a big mistake I see people who take GLP-1s is that they're losing all this weight, but they're not exercising. And oftentimes it's because they don't have the energy or motivation to exercise. which would make sense because they're not eating a lot. Whoa, okay, so here's another problem. They're skipping breakfast. They're eating like a fruit cup for lunch. I'm not even exaggerating here. Maybe sipping on a protein shake and then eating a light dinner. That's not a lot of fuel. You can't forget that calories are fuel and fuel is energy. So even if you're trying to lose weight and maybe get off this medication as fast as you can, you still need to put food in your body so that your cells that are still there in your heart and your liver and your brain have energy to function. Because if you're not putting energy in your body, you don't have energy to go out and live a full life, in which case, who cares if you're like skinnier, if you don't have energy to fully be present and do things. At least that's my opinion. Personally, I love to live a full life. I love an active life. I love to be present with people. And when I don't have the energy to do that, I feel really bad. So do not skip meals and eat food, and not eat food, because then you won't have energy to go stimulate muscle tissue through exercise. Okay, so the other way we preserve or build muscle tissue is by the act of strength training. You will not build muscle tissue unless you are putting tension on the muscle. So just because you're taking a GLP-1 does not mean you should not exercise. In fact, you should see this GLP-1 as a tool that helps you make better food choices so that you fuel well to go have energy to exercise and move. If you only have a limited amount of time or energy to work out, prioritize strength training. Yes, walking, cardio, all that stuff is wonderful for your health. If you have all the time in the world, do it all. If you can only pick one thing, strength training. I put my clients on the Peloton app if they don't have a budget for a trainer, but I really don't think anything compares to going into the gym and really learning how to create a tailored, personalized plan with a trainer. If you're in the Orlando area, we've got recommendations for you, but whatever you can do to strength train. So that's the second thing. Not eating enough protein to lose muscle tissue, not strength training or exercise to preserve muscle tissue. This is super important if you go off the medication, by the way, because muscle tissue helps your metabolism, which will improve the likelihood that you maintain any loss if you get kicked off the medication due to insurance or choose to go off of it. In fact, there's a study called the Step 1 trial extension that found that 2/3 of participants in the original study was the Step 1 trial, and they measured how much people lost using GLP-1s. Great. Then they did the study extension to see who maintained the weight loss, and 2/3 of people gained all the weight or more within a year. Pretty crappy odds. So build muscle tissue, eat healthy habits, or make healthy habits that will increase your likelihood of long-term success. Okay, the third mistake I see is when people don't eat a lot or they completely cut out carbs, they start to have symptoms of low blood sugar. Now here's the really interesting thing. When we have symptoms of low blood sugar, which we all do, by the way, blood sugar is like our barometer for energy. Food breaks down into sugar, essentially, goes to our cells, gives us energy. That's like the kindergarten explanation. It's way more complicated than that. But when people completely cut out carbs or food, their cells aren't getting that energy. And normally, somebody who's not on a GLP-1 would get signals that encourage them to go eat. This is a survival mechanism. You would feel a light emptiness in your stomach, like a pit. Maybe you'd have thoughts of food. Maybe the food noise is beneficial in some way, shape, or form. Hunger, food noise, it's a good thing. You should feel hungry, it's normal. You may get like a growly feeling, like you just start thinking about food. Okay, so those are like the first signals of hunger. When you're on a GLP-1, really high dose, those signals might be gone, right? Which, like, for somebody who maybe has always struggled with food noise, I can see the appeal. But here's the cost of not eating. You'll start to experience the more intense symptoms of hypoglycemia, which include headaches, irritability, lightheadedness, dizziness, thirst, like excessive thirst, or dehydration. I'm sorry, I should say dehydration, because the GLP-1 can turn off your thirst signal. So dehydration, which doesn't feel great. Low energy, low motivation, right? You don't have energy to go work out or do anything. And then here is where one of two things will happen. Even if you're on the GLP-1, you might crave sugar and junk food. Can't tell you how many patients I've had that don't eat all day and then they come home and they still want sugar and they're struggling with cravings or fast food. it doesn't just go away. Your body is still going to have intrinsic mechanisms to go seek out quick sources of energy. So if you deprive it, you still might just be eating junk. Sure, you're going to fill up faster and you're going to eat less junk, but why would you want to put a bunch of processed junk in your body when you're on a medication that's going to help you eat healthier? Like, make it make sense. But if you're not eating, your body's going to send you signals to go seek out quick sources of energy. Okay? Also, if you're at work feeling this way, or you're with your kids, like, why would you want to be irritable and hangry and just sad? Like, that just goes against everything I believe in. You know, like, part of being healthy and even losing weight is so that you can live a better life, so you can feel better doing whatever it is you do. And even if you lose weight, if you feel sickly, then what's the point? So here's what I would tell anybody on GLP-1 to avoid making this mistake. At the bare minimum, you need 3 doses of nutrition a day, okay? All of these doses need to have at least 20 grams of protein, more if you have higher protein needs. You need to make time to strength train. Twice a week would be a great place to start, either on the Peloton app or YouTube video that you like, or with a trainer. It needs to be strength training. What about Pilates? I don't know if it really counts as strength training. I've done some Pilates classes that have whooped my butt. I've done some Pilates classes where I was like, yeah, like that was challenging. Was it strength training? Okay, so if you only have 2 slots to work out in the week, you need to put tension on the muscle. Be honest with yourself, okay? Side note, you can do an in-body scan to assess your skeletal muscle loss over time. I think anyone who's doing a GLP-1 should be doing body composition scans. DexaFit Orlando has one. Many offices are going to have, like medical offices will have a in-body scan as well. If you see that skeletal muscle is dropping, you need to increase your protein and increase your strength training ASAP, okay? And the third thing is, if you're experiencing those symptoms of hypoglycemia, low energy, malaise, fatigue, cravings, even on a GLP-1, you probably need to add some complex carbs to your daytime meals. Do not be afraid of carbs on a GLP-1. I promise you're gonna be just fine. Choose your healthy complex carbs, even fruit. Yes, God forbid, the sugar in fruit's amazing. It's a great source of fiber and energy. Complex carbs include sweet potato, rolled or old-fashioned oats, sprouted grain bread, sprouted grain tortillas, beans, lentils, chickpeas, brown rice, quinoa, farro. How long do you want me to go? All of these foods are great things to have at your meals. They give you long-lasting energy that prevents the crash and then therefore the sugar cravings. Remember, GLP-1s are a tool to help you eat less total food, but think about that less total food from excess junk, excess snacking, cravings, overeating at meals. You still need fuel throughout the day to function. I know you're desperate to lose weight. I know you want to feel better like yesterday, but I promise you there is a cost to starving yourself, because that's what's happening. And we'll see what happens in the future. My mission as a dietitian is to help people, no matter if they're taking a GLP-1 or doing it the, I guess, old-fashioned way of weight loss, is to fuel just doing it in a way that yields the result they're looking for. Don't forget about the importance of body composition. If you want to work one-on-one with a dietitian, I do in-person and telehealth visits. This is our office here in Orlando. I work with another dietitian, Megan Ware, and we are taking appointments. So if you're on a GLP-1, you want to take it to the next level, I have a link to Nutrition Awareness's website in our bio. Just send us a message if you've got questions, Instagram or our email on the website. I'll link that all below. Happy to answer any questions for you guys about setting up an appointment. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment, whatever it is. I'm new to the YouTube game. I'm a podcaster, I'm an Instagrammer, but I love long form conversation and I just think YouTube's amazing. I will see you guys on a future video.